Hey guys, I thought I'd do a video um, to show you the processing I did on this image, hopefully to help you out a little bit with a few things or possibly a bit of a workflow. So as you can see, there's been quite a bit of processing done, and I'll just go through step by step. This was the base image I took. It's had its Lightroom raw adjustments done to it, not a great deal. Some shadows were opened. I enabled the corrections, and I think I changed a bit of the colours in the foreground. This was a composition a bit later in the morning. I was around here a little bit more shooting earlier when the colour was a lot better, but I liked the splash I got here the best, so I actually dropped the sky in from earlier in the day. It was from a different angle, so I had to transform this and bring it in under the mountain a little bit. Then I was able to create a mask and just mask it in. It's actually a little bit of work, but it got in there anyway. I had a third exposure that I blended that actually, I'll turn that off, had better water flow over a few areas, but I still liked the sort of water bursts that I had here. So I just, as you can see by this mask, I've just painted a bit more water around a few areas. With the mask looking like that, I just did it freehand. I've then stamped the layer, and I've done a couple of contrast adjustments, just some basic ones. So by using this layer mask I created here, I've done a sky, literally flipped it, did a foreground. I then put an auto effect on. So what I've done, I have put a Gaussian blur over the whole image at about 35%, and then created a levels adjustment by going through image adjustments, the levels, because that actually puts the adjustment on a pixel layer, not a layer mask. So I've had to reduce this layer down to 11%. If I was at full strength, that's what the adjustment would look like. But what that does is it just softens the image a little bit. I'll go back to 11. Softens the image a little bit, and then brings some detail back with that levels adjustment. So it's still quite soft after that Gaussian blur. So I counteract that. I stamped it again, and I used Nick tonal contrast, and I've just brought a bit of detail back. So if I was to just group those, that's pretty much before and after an auto effect and a little bit of Nick. I then had a little bit of funny from the blend I noticed just there where it wasn't marrying up, so I just got rid of that in the corner. I've then done what was that? That was just some camera raw adjustments. So I warmed the brightest pixels in the foreground and just sort of painted it out of the sky because I didn't want it. So if you look here, it's was pretty subtle, but it's just warmed a few areas up, and I did the opposite with that and cooled the shadows down here. And then what have I done? I've then done a clarity adjustment, so I've just pulled a bit of detail out of the moving water to help it stand out a bit more. I've then, so I've got quite a light mask there. I've then done a saturation boost on just the brightest areas, leaving the mountain and the rocks alone. So that's what that looks like. And then I've balanced that saturation adjustment out with literally a gradient mask to warm the foreground up a bit because it was a bit too cool. I've then saturated, changed the colour from that yellow to a bit more golden orange. Then I've done a levels adjustment. So what I've done here, I've selected my brightest pixels. This was clipping a little bit for me, and I've brought the overexposed area back a bit. So by creating a levels adjustment and turning it to blend mode, I haven't touched the level, I've just changed it to multiply. it darkens the pixels. So by then putting a layer mask that just selects the brightest areas, I was able to just darken those bright pixels there. I've then done levels 4, so that's a contrast adjustment that I've just selected my midtones, and then see this area here. I had a little bit of a water splash or something on my filter. I got rid of that because I was about to start painting a bit of light in, and I didn't want it there. So here's my first. It's just a soft light layer with I was painting with a colour. If you turn that layer mask off, you can see it was I've just painted with my brush coming in, and then used quite a bright mask just to keep it fully out of where the shadow areas where light wouldn't usually shine in anyway. And this is my more detailed dodging and burning, so I've zoomed right in. If you look around the mountain and look around these rocks, I've gone in and I've really spent quite a bit of time, not quite a bit of time, probably 20 or 30 minutes. I've just been painting bits in, as you can see, just to create that little bit extra effect of the sun glowing. I have then, oh yeah, that's right, this hue saturation layer, this was a bit too peachy for me, so I've just changed the colour of it to a bit more golden, painted it in there. Brightness contrast, that's right, that was taking my attention out of the image too much. I literally just darkened that with a brightness contrast layer and did the opposite of that. I just brightened these bits here in the foreground, just so you look at that as one of the first things you look at. I've then done a curves. Now it's a vignette I've done, and I've brushed the vignette a little bit out of this corner, because without it up there it was a bit too harsh. This next adjustment here, if you look in the original image, the mountain is very hazy. I'm not too sure why, just I guess the way the sun was hitting it. Could have been my filter was dirty, but anyway, I just used a contrast adjustment. I think I selected it and then just painted it in freehand. I was able to just make that not so obvious. I've then got a Orton effect again, and you can see where I've gone and just put a bit more of a soft glow on those brighter areas in the image. So if I turn that on and off, it's pretty subtle, but it just gives it that bit of a washed out feel, which I'm liking at the moment. I then thought the left side was still a little too dark, so I've just brightened that up with a gradient just to balance it out a little bit more, and a small vignette. This is where I'm at now. I think it's done because I've just done some work on it and looked at it, but I'll probably come back to it soon and see something else I want to change. But anyway, I hope this helped and gave you a bit of an insight and a few more ideas. I know I've done these before and you might not have understood a few things or taken them in, but yeah, hopefully you can get a few things out of it. See yous.